Hey guys, how are you? This is Sandy Shellis, Environmental Coffee House, and today I'm going to talk about Greta, Greta, Greta. Okay, everybody's been doing their pieces. There is so much out there that has been brought up by the school strikes, by Greta herself, and I used a quote from someone who is amazingly phenomenal. Hi, Keith. Great for you to join us. Um, Someone who is phenomenal, and her name is Jackie Lukman. And I got to move this thing around, though. All right. You just screen and play with it. Uh, and I'm going to read it to you because the first topic I want to bring up about Greta. Hi, Justin. Um, all right. My stream quality just got lowered. Isn't that nice? I don't have a fast enough connection. I'm going to read what Jackie wrote. And I asked her, I haven't heard from her, but I'm going to do it because, whoops, oh, darn. Everything's falling apart in this room today. It is just a total mess. All right. If my computer falls off the thing I have it on, that would be funny. Here we go. Jackie, there was a comment. And Jackie, hi, Kim. Jackie said, pointing out that youth activists of color have been fighting to raise awareness about and mobilize to fight climate change before Greta Thunberg did is not an attack on Greta. It's an indictment on this society regarding who you feel is worthy of your attention and who you choose to take seriously on serious issues and who you choose to ignore. People who are actually attacking her because she is young, for her looks, because she has Asperger's, are assholes. They are attacking her. But people who are asking why so few listened when young activists of color said and tried to do the same things Greta has are legitimately asking, how could people have ignored the same message from different looking people for so long? People legitimately ask this question of those now celebrating Greta are falsely characterized as attacking her. No, these people are questioning society and its biases again. Does it serve a purpose? Always. Self-reflection and confronting one's biases is never convenient. Nor is there ever a time that is right for those who need to deal with these issues. Because the bottom line is, if the world had listened to all those voices before Greta, we wouldn't be having this conversation at all. And the reason why I started out with this is because it's been, I don't know what you would call it, jealousy, anger, not on Jackie's part. This has nothing to do with her. I just thought her comment was excellent. There's other people that are very angry that this girl, and they've mentioned her braids and her this and how she looks and all, that she's the one that got the audience. She's the one that's out there from Sweden. And they're just, okay, so, but she's the one. And I had contended, I don't know, a while back when there were people that were uh, saying a lot of things about this, Greta. I said, look, wouldn't you rather the kids out there? I mean, this is about the kids. It's not our future, the boomers, or even the Gen Xers. It's the kids, her age. Would you rather have kids looking up to a Greta, or would you rather have them looking up to some stupid television pop star in any country? Or some musician that has, nothing more in their mind than makeup and glitter and all that other horse shit. All right, so that's one argument, right? Mm-hmm. And Kim, she says, okay, I see a few Facebook guys that are so jealous of Greta. All right, well, let's talk about this one for a little bit. I'm going to talk about Martin Hutchison. Martin Hutchison, the 21st century environmental explorer who's been riding his elliptical with a trailer and a dog, but he's been riding around Europe for 15 years, collecting plastic and documenting on thousands of videos the trash all over the world. He shows up in the newspaper. He does things with children. He does things in classrooms with the dog, and he is planting trees everywhere he goes. But what happened is he got jaded and angry because all of a sudden, with all his efforts, he doesn't get this attention. He's just some older white bloke from the UK. But what he's been showing has been making him angrier and angrier. Okay? Angrier and angrier because he hasn't been able to get this through, and the garbage in 15 years and what he calls rubbish has just exacerbated. It's just grown. He's angry. All right. And then you go to the Twittosphere. And oh my God, some of the viciousness out there is it's just unbelievable. There was one, I'm sure everybody saw this, that this complete moron guy, he writes, not even being provocative, but if you think Greta Thunberg, I think it's Thunberg, has the maturity to guide global policy making, then you cannot object to Jeffrey Epstein paying 16-year-olds for sex, which is like sick. Okay, that's sick. And some of the answers to that one were like people were just a little bit flipped out at this idiot's. I can't seem to find the comments, but I wanted to read a couple of them. Let me see. Here we go. Here comes a new challenger. Oh, but he wasn't even being provocative. Uh, Catholic and libertarian, it checks out. So I mean, so the Twitter sphere is going nuts, right? She has really just sparked a nation, a world, a response, but she's bringing attention. So she's bringing attention, and people are just they could be so vicious. And I'm not talking about anybody specifically I know or anything like that. The Breitbart news, go on Breitbart, right? And of course, the right wing climate deniers, there they are. They're on there, and Breitbart. What are they saying? They had a whole bunch of stuff on her, um, and a lot of them were making fun of her pigtails. And but one of the commentaries actually I did hear about her was that in her country, it's not like the United States. You know, they teach children critical thinking. Critical thinking skills are important. What's important in the United States? Teach to the test. Fact, just I don't even know if it's facts anymore. I haven't had a school age kid in a long time. But let me say hi to a bunch of you because there's a lot of you here. Karen and Justin and Keith and Kim and Human and great. Thank you all for joining me. Thank you all for joining me. And natural progressive, you're right, because I was going to get there. Those saying she is pushing establishment agenda have not really listened to her last speech. Well, why don't I just segue into that really quickly, because we'll leave the Twitter sphere, because I can't sit for a long time. But Environmental Coffee House is the best antidepressant for me, better than a pill would ever be, because you're all here, right? Thank you. So she did respond to her haters. And she said she saw the rumors. And she says, what I told my parents about my plans, they weren't really fond of it. They did not support the idea of school striking. And they said that if I were to do this, I would have to do it completely by myself with no support from them. So that was the beginning. And then she said she's not part of any organization. She sometimes supports and cooperates with several NGOs. And she went and talked about how it started. And it's probably right that the attraction for that Nordic, Swedish braids and all that was there, and that others, there are so many kids that have already been on the front lines. We put an article on the Facebook page about a gal from um, Canada. And then Business Insider had an article that called Greta Thunberg. I wish I could say it right the way she said it. Greta Thunberg or Thunberry, almost like a berry. Anyway, uh, there's young people from Nigeria and Austria and the Marshall Islands, everywhere, everywhere, and there have been. Maybe this is what it takes. Maybe our world is so transparent. Maybe the media is so transparent that it took a blonde, blue-eyed to get this on the map more so than other kids. I mean, there were kids that were up in, Standing Rock. There were kids. There are indigenous people fighting, young people fighting up in Canada. Does that get anything? Did Martin? Except where he went? Okay, so we got here. And it's a climate strike. And we have, again, then we also have, okay, Karen. I'm going to use Karen's before I move to the other one. The worst post I saw yesterday was someone comparing Greta to children Hitler used to spread his agenda. Made you sick? Well, yeah, that's a whole other one that was on there. And my daughter actually had it on her Facebook page, and it was very contentious because she was pissed. I mean, she was super upset at this. That someone would say it. And her Facebook, there was a whole lot of stuff. I don't know if I even have it up. I don't know if I saved it to go there, but I don't think it was something I'm going to read. But it's been talked about even in circles like my kid. They're out there. And it was disgusting. On the right, the climate deniers and the things that are I saw on Twitter, when you're laying around and you don't feel good, man, and you're trying to distract yourself, sometimes the Twitter sphere is distracting, to say the least. Let's see what you guys are out there talking about. Sick of all the propaganda BS lying going on. Well, let's see. Stick to my stomach. Yeah, it's. But the thing is, she's 16 and she's giving the finger to all of them, including this freaking moron, the biggest moron of all, our president of the United States. A very happy young girl looking forward to a bright and wonderful future, which of course was his snarky, snotty little thing on Twitter. Twitter, which is now the communication method of preference for every world leader and politician on the planet. Oh my God. And this was one of my favorites. Not old enough to watch porn, but old enough to watch the planet get fucked. That was my really all-time favorite one of all the ones that I saw. So I thought I'd put it up. But anyway, guys, so, and it's not even, the criticism is a good thing. Criticism is a good thing. There's nothing wrong with criticizing. Attacking her, like Jackie said, is a horrible thing. But talking about how she got there and why she got there is not. But now she's gotten there. And the kids have someone to look up to. And the right wing can scream and yell all they want about globalist agenda and all the other shit that they want to, scream about that. I also saw one that said all about the screen test for the role. I don't live my life in a paranoid state for what's going on in the world. I can't. My own personal world has enough shit in it that I can wallow in that and be able to handle some of the stuff I read and then talk to you about it. I hope that a lot of us can do this. Be objective. Even though some of what we say, of course, is subjective. Natural Progressive says Greta is pushing a natural solution, not a corporate agenda. Restore, repair, and fund nature. I think so too, and that's another thing that's controversial to those people. It's controversial. She's controversial. It's scary. It's probably scary to the people that are, the neoliberals that, are pushing everything, an infinite growth model, which she herself knows there's no infinite growth model. Let me go back to what she said. She said, of course, about money. She goes, there's no money. I do what I do free. And she said, and of course, it'll stay this way. I have not met one single climate activist who is fighting for the climate for money. I'm not. The idea is completely absurd. Furthermore, I only travel with permission from my school, and my parents pay for tickets and accommodations, and her parents have the means to do it. I guess, right? And then there is the complaint, she says, that I sounded right like an adult. And to what I can only say, don't you think a 16-year-old can speak for herself? For God's sakes, I was writing incredible papers at 16. I graduated high school at 17. I didn't have braids. She says, for example, when I say that the climate crisis is a black and white issue, we need to stop emissions of greenhouse gases, and I want you to panic. But I only say because it's true. Yes, the climate crisis is the most complex issue that we have ever faced, and it's going to take everything from our part to stop it. But the solution is black and white. We need to stop the emissions of greenhouse gases. So she watches the scientists, and, she's a smart kid. What the fuck is wrong with that? Nothing. Nothing. And I want all these other kids with the message to have the stage like I saw when I was at Karen's, and we saw these kids on the stage, and we saw them all talking about their countries and what they're seeing. And then I see on right wing Twitter, I see some guy saying that, oh no, it was an article in Breitbart, I think, that there's never been one instance of climate migration from sea level rise. And that is just a bunch of crap. It's happening in our own United States. It's happening all over the world. They lie. And they're lying about her. I mean, this paranoia that everybody is underneath is another part of the collapse. It's another part of the end. It's another part of why we're going, or why we're going to go. And it's manufactured consent, and it's propaganda. We're propagandized, and people are calling Greta propaganda. Man, if that's propaganda, though, I'd rather have propaganda like that. And then there's people that, okay, they're going to criticize her. She's talking about climate change and CO2. Okay, it's an overarching issue. Ecocide is happening, and we see it everywhere. We're losing species, and she knows this. So it's gotten it on the stage. And even when Hambone talks about it, he's calling her a doomer chick. And in fact, I want to get to this article I'm going to read by Umair, because I'm going to tell you, I hate to use the word hate. And let me see how long I've been on. Okay, I've been on 20 minutes. I want to get to this article. And you guys, you talk about this article as I get to it, because it's really great. Well, let's see if I can get to it, because it just goes, it just goes more onto how she can be so controversial. And she is. But this is Umair Haque, and he is one of my entirely favorite authors. I just like what he writes. The Schoolgirl, the Fascist, and the Fight for the Future. And I'll put all the links in, because I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to read the whole thing. But there's that look. Okay. So there was a historic moment captured in photographs which struck me, and probably you too, as especially poignant, momentous, special. The strutting fascist at the head of the world's crumbling capitalist empire, preening in the glow of the cameras. And behind him, the humble, defiant schoolgirl trying to save the world. What a moment. But what is it that is so striking? What's so striking? Why does it touch sane and thoughtful people so? Let me explain. Like all historic moments, a paradox, or many of them, was caught in amber, an epic conflict between the past and the future, the present and possibility, between old world dying and the new one struggling to be born. The first paradox is between power and powerlessness, but not in a simplistic way. On the one side, there's the preternaturally adult schoolgirl, scolding the assembled leaders of the world, not holding back for a moment. You failed us, she says. You've stolen my childhood, and now you're stealing my future. For money. Don't you care about us? About the planet? The world's leaders applauded, uncomfortably. They've been called out, cussed out, witnessed, questioned, challenged by a schoolgirl. How did they get here? The powerless ones, at least for a moment. How is it that a little schoolgirl is challenging the assembled power of the leaders of the planet Earth? The world seems to be turning upside down before our eyes. The child made to be an adult before her time is scolding the world's powerful adults for acting like spoiled children. It's genuinely bizarre, surreal, head-spinning thing to see. We see revealed in stark terms just how badly the world's leaders have failed, and the little schoolgirl is taking them to task, literally. Can there be any greater indictment than that? When a literal schoolgirl points out how badly flawed your priorities, morality, ethics, and attitudes are, who is really the child? The little schoolgirl is challenging formal power, institutional power, with moral power, with social and cultural power. Will she win? That brings me to the second paradox. Between what you might call ego and soul, Greta, like all great figures of history, uses shame. Think of MLK, think of JFK, Gandhi, Mandela, Malala. They are all titans of moral power. What gives moral power its shattering force? By making us bear witness, it appeals to our better selves, our moral souls, our consciences. It shames us, it sears us with the guilt of little complicities and willful blindness. It whips us with the lash of sorrow and regret. We must be better than this, we are reminded. Then perhaps we defy the orders of the foolish, violent men who've made humanity peasants and slaves for millennia. Perhaps then there is revolution. There is one man impervious to Greta's message. The leader of the don't laugh free world. He struts across the stage, preening like a spoiled child. It's all about him, you see. Why, he's the one that deserves the Nobel Peace Prize for building concentration camps, putting kids in cages, separating families, starving and parching little children to death. The stuff the last living Nuremberg prosecutor has called crimes against humanity. Greta's message doesn't reach him or his followers, who've begun to attack her for being different, for being young, for being defiant, for not obeying meekly. He calls her names. What does that tell us? Greta's message is one whose moral power comes from terrible shame. But this man, the fascist leading the free world, he has no shame. And so, quite naturally, all he feels is rage and anger. Why? Because he is an infantile narcissist. He literally lives in the experiential and emotional world of a little child. He is forever seeking total power, omnipotence to prove himself to prove to himself he is worthy, having been unloved by distant parents. He will fail because in this life, no one can have absolute power. He does more violence, calls more names. The world laughs some more. The vicious cycle continues. What else can an infantile narcissist do? He has no shame, just a desperate desire to be powerful, even if it means turning the whole world to ashes, so long as he can stand atop it. Do you see how the little schoolgirl represents a radically higher level of consciousness than most of the world's leaders, but especially the fascist leader of the free world? That brings me to my next paradox. The leader of the free world is a fascist with arsenals of remote-controlled killing machines. His stunted, shrunken mindset, the point of existence is to win more power and wealth through violence, is being challenged by a little schoolgirl from a gentle social democracy with shame and guilt and humility. What the fuck? Why do all of Greta's attackers, or at least most of them, come from this man's country? The capitalist empire that imploded into fascism? And why does Greta come from the very opposite, a gentle and humble social democracy, like I was saying before? But isn't it only natural that those without shame come from capitalism's empire of violence and greed? In that society, vulnerability is weakness and weakness is death. Virtue is therefore greed, ruthlessness, heartlessness, cruelty, selfishness, and vanity. What's prized above all is the ability to do violence, not just physical, but social, emotional, and cultural. You can wreck a town without feeling a thing. You can sell a whole country pills or the guns that kill them. Awesome! Here's $1 billion. Shame isn't allowed in capitalism's empire of violence. How could it be? Feelings aren't allowed at all. Nobody feels a thing anymore. They've learned to medicate away the terrible pain of being exploited mercilessly by their capitalist slave masters who leave them without money, dignity, time, meaning, and the slave masters in turn are too busy turning them into commodities to buy and sell, so they can buy shiny things to boast about and show off. So nobody much is allowed to feel in capitalism's crumbling empire, which is why it's world-renowned for shallowness, superficiality, and meaninglessness. People have been dehumanized, but they don't know it because nobody will tell them. What can dehumanized people do to save a dying planet? They can't even save themselves. But the little schoolgirl society is just the opposite. People don't seem to be trapped in a zero-sum contest for a dwindling pie of power, like in the collapsing capitalist empire. And why is that? People are taken care of. No, not perfectly. Will any society ever be perfect? Just in a more humane way. Healthcare, retirement, income, transport, education, all these things are basic human rights. People are therefore freer, but instead of competing for power, they are empowering each other. To what? To live more fully, to be happy, to question, to know, to understand, to challenge, to defy, to think, to reason, to be humane and decent and sane. And so ultimately, and this is crucial, to feel. That is what she's been really taught. When your life isn't one endless, brutalizing, dehumanizing competition for survival, lose that job, there goes your health care, bang, everyone one small emergency away from the edge of ruin, then your life isn't also one long feeling of dread, anxiety, and despair. Therefore, you don't have to medicate it away the way people do in the capitalist empire, whether with painkillers or with money or with possessions. Guilty as charged. You are free to sit there and reflect, to feel deeply the sorrow and joy and pain and beauty of just being here, just existing for a few breaths on this blue oasis hurtling through endless darkness. But capitalism killed that ability to feel, to really connect with life itself in this way. The little schoolgirl from the social democracy feels and feels deeply to the point that she grieves for the death of the planet and life on it, because social democracy is what let her feel. It's not a coincidence she came from a totally different kind of society. She couldn't have come from anywhere else. She certainly couldn't have come from capitalism's empire at all. Who can grieve for the end of the world in the land of the plastic smile? And isn't that sneer, that smirk, that one plastered on the face of the fascist? That brings me to my next paradox. A little schoolgirl teaching us all how to grieve for the end of the world, while the fascist leader of the free world struts and preens and teaches us only what it is like, what it is to be the kind of violent fool that that ends the world. Let me put it this way. What is the little schoolgirl really teaching us? About the value of anger? That's what people, well, the well meaning ones in the capitalist empire think. They can only see violence now. So they think anger is the lesson. But it's not. The lesson is this: to face the end of the world and fight it, we must feel. We must really feel right down in our bones. If we cannot feel, what reason is there to act? Think about the fascist strutting across that stage. Okay. But those who can't feel a thing can't face the end of the world either, much less fight it. Think of the little schoolgirl herself. She's divergent. They say that people like her shouldn't be able to feel much at all, or so the myth goes. But she's the incandescent one, the one scolding the world's leaders with a kind of white hot fury. She's the one crying tears. She's the one from whom sorrow explodes like an endless winter. The little schoolgirl is teaching us how to grieve for the end of the world, and in that way, she's teaching us to fight for the future too. But the fascist leading the free world is just teaching us how to sneer and smirk at death. At death. Of democracy, of the planet, of life on it, of history and decency. The little schoolgirl is teaching us that defiance comes not just from anger or rage, or even the capitalist empire's neatly packaged hope and optimism, but from a profound, shattering sense of sorrow, from a sense of heart-stopping existential despair, from Sartre's nausea, from Camus' despair, from Kierkegaard's terror, without those life-giving emotions radiating outwards from our moral centers like great waves of transformation, not just the endless hunger for more power, more money, more possession. There is no reason whatsoever to do anything other than submit to violent men who have always ruled the world, even if the world is ending this time. That moved me. That's a moving one. That is definitely a moving piece by Umar Haque. Basically, every piece he writes is like that. It's just moves me. Yes. Okay, so how are you guys? And there's a lot of comments, and it looks really good. And if I stop moving this thing, good. Oh, wow. Empaths cannot teach non-empaths. Oh, empaths cannot teach non-empaths to think or feel sadly. I have firsthand experience with that in my own life, as I'm sure a lot of you do. And everyone, everyone here should be part of bread tube. Oh, okay. Well, I'm not sure what that meant. So, Matt said we should be studying. Oh, okay. Matt says we should be studying anarchism now. It will be needed as things change. participatory economics is potentially the best solution. And there's a lot of people talking about that, especially like Adam Soul, and even on Jamin's channel, they had him on, Jamin Shively, but they get a little too crazy for me. But I'm waiting for Adam. Oh my God. I'm putting this thing down. I'm going to trip over everything that I have because my office is a complete mess. And I can't pick this stuff up, but I will. Okay, where are you guys at? Hi, Gazer. What are you saying? I would hope. Oh, well, there's a lot here, guys. I don't know if it's too late. You guys are talking about, Gazer says it was going downhill early 70s. Well, yeah, the environment, of course. I mean, we used to drive downtown to New York City and see the buildings and the smokestacks just billowing disgusting smoke on the way to go down down New York City. Well, guys, I've been on for 36 minutes, getting to that point of uncomfortable sittingness for me, even with a back brace on. But I had to do this. It was very good for me. She has a way of getting straight to the point as just to confronting for those visionless cretins who use the establishment to hide in. Hi, Ranter. Well, I'm glad you joined us. I like that. Yeah. All right. Listen, guys, there's a lot of you out there. Hi, Henry Hope. He says, keep stress levels down and look after diet or have a heart attack. Well, Henry, that's true. I try my hardest, but I have great blood work and no heart problems. I have everything else, but no heart problems. How about all you out there? You taking care of yourself so that we can watch the collapse in a healthy manner? I won't be here to see it. But you know what? I won't be there either because I'm not going to be under a gravestone. Take me and throw me all over. Throw me into the ocean. Let me become part of sea level rise. Make sure you all hear that. Make sure you tell my daughter. Everybody, thanks for coming. Think about the things. Think about maybe being quiet, doing little meditations, regrouping. We have a lot coming at us. Hey, Val, I wouldn't want to be 16. And all of you are going to protest. That's right. Your environmental Seattle High, Carl. Got to get you on here one of these days. I always say that, and it's when I feel better. But anyway, guys, it is 38 minutes. I mean, I can go 2 more minutes, but what? Chris, what do you mean you died 3 weeks ago, but you're feeling better? You were sick. Don't scare us. That had to be really, really scary. My gosh, there's so much going wrong. And I honestly, again, I read something else, and another commenter was saying, and another thing about the plastics all over the place. And I always do this. I say goodbye and I start something else, but the plastics are in us that will never be out of plastic. Every living being is got plastic. We have plastic all the way into our soul. And I know you would, Carl. I'll get in touch. I'm trying to feel better. Peace. I love you guys. Thanks for coming.